Welcome everyone to today's webinar on sustainable plastics and packaging for the foam and stone industry in South Africa. We plan to run more such webinars on sustainability related topics. I will share more information about our next webinar at the end of the session, and there will also be communication in this regard on our social media platforms, as well as on our events page at our website. I'm Nitasha Baijnath-Pillay, the Resource Management and Sustainability Manager at Hortgro. Hortgro is an industry association that supports our deciduous fruit industry in Africa, particularly foam and stone, and we focus on supporting our industry by research, economic transformation, market development, and sustainable agricultural practices in fruit production. I'm your host and moderator today. Yet again, we have an amazing lineup, and we have some very knowledgeable experts to share with you some opportunities and what's going on in terms of sustainable packaging and packaging solutions in our industry. With the new EU Paper and Packaging Waste Regulations, or the EU PPWR, we have some insights that will be shared on the platform and on our website as well with regards to the new regulations. You may already know that the EU PPR has got quite strict requirements till 2030. The targets are, for example, that 30%, or actually 35% of all materials that are placed on the shelf in the EU market by 2030 must have at least 35% recyclable material. At least 40% of transport packaging must be reusable by 2030. Single-use plastics will not be allowed on the shelf in the EU, and all plastic bags must be recyclable. There are other requirements which you will be able to access the information on our website should you require it. But for now, let me introduce my panel of experts to you. Firstly, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Philippe Binard. Mr. Philippe Binard is the General Delegate at Freshfel Europe. He oversees the activities of Freshfel Europe Secretariat and is responsible for the external representation of the association and is answerable to the board, Freshfel Europe board, as well as to its members. Philippe is also the Secretary General of the World Apple and Pear Association and the General Delegate at the World Citrus Organization, which are both hosted by Freshfel Europe. Today, physically with me in the room is Mr. Louw. Con is the Logistics Manager at Ceres Fruit Growers in Ceres in the Western Cape. He has over 28 years of experience in the fruit industry, and he is responsible for fruit receiving, distribution, and packaging material. Dr. Mariana Jooste is the Postharvest Research Program Manager at Hortgro Science. Hortgro Science is our research engine at Hortgro. Dr. Jooste specializes in optimizing post-harvest handling protocols through applied research and industry collaboration. She is so passionate about innovation and development and remains deeply committed to advancing post-harvest science and mentoring the next generation of agricultural professionals. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Binard. Mr. Binard and I had an interview a few days ago. We pre-recorded some very valuable information, and we will share this with you right now. The questions are in the presentation, so you'll be able to follow this quite easily.
So for those who doesn't know Freshfel Europe, we are based in Brussels. It's the European Fruit and Vegetable Association. We are a vertical organization because we incorporate in our structure the different segments of the supply chain, from the production down to retail, passing through the different elements of trade, from import, export, wholesale, logistics. And our common goals, our ultimate goal is to stimulate the consumption of fruit and vegetables. We are still below the minimum recommendation from a health perspective, but also if we incorporate the environmental perspective, we should consume much more fruit and vegetables. And being based in Brussels, we try to be influencing as much as we can the agriculture policy, the trade policy, the food and plant safety policy. And we have seen, and that's connecting us also with the topic of today, there are more and more matters relating to sustainability, which include environmental protection. And this is what basically we try to do with our membership, which include national organization, which include individual company, and which include a number of partners outside Europe, which include also through South Africa. It definitely affects you quite a lot, because when we look at data, South Africa is exporting 1.3, 1.4 million tons of fruit and fresh fruit and vegetables to the European Union. So South Africa is an important partner for the European fruit and vegetable market. Legislative or regulatory requirements. There are also some non-regulatory requirements, which mean getting access to the customer. So when we talk about packaging, it's a bit a combination of both. And yes, indeed, as part of the European commitment to what is called the Paris Agreement, which is aiming at addressing climate change, there have been a number, quite a significant number of new legislation, which were all encompassed in what was known as the Green Deal and the Farm to Fork strategy. And to some extent, the EU has tried to make a common approach on all these matters, but sometimes national legislation were going further. There were some member states who were not waiting necessarily a European legislation. And this is where the discussion about packaging has been starting, because I think those who started this process were the French, where they wanted to take action, in particular regarding plastic, and they have started to incorporate in their legislation a number of requirements. That was a little bit problematic, because within Europe we have the functioning of the single market and the free movement of products, and if one member state was taking a specific approach, that could endanger the free movement of products which are, in your case, legally imported into the European Union. But we have seen also that some other has been further. If you take the Spanish legislation, it was not only covering plastic, it was covering all kinds of packaging with very complex mechanisms. And this is where the EU have said, well, I need to do something. And the EU have then come with a proposal which have been finalized politically at the end of last year, and formalized with the publication of a legislation at the beginning of 2025. So that's where we are now in regard to packaging. So the objective was to have common rules, but the common rules still have a number of complexity. I think you are totally right. I think we could be pleased on the one way, because the European legislation, when it came as a proposal, was targeting all kinds of packaging, not only plastic, but also on the Spanish model, if I could say it like that, also cardboard or paper or wood, which is the case or the plan in Spain. Finally, because of the different political discussion in the Parliament, at the Council, the European Commission proposal turned it to be only limited in regard to the specific rule on fruit and vegetable to plastic. But there are a number of problems that we don't like in this. First, why fruit and vegetables? Because it's the only food sector which is targeted by a specific measure. Why fruit and vegetables? When we look at the data, it's not rocket science, but I think we estimate that plastic packaging on fruit and vegetable only represent 1.5% of the plastic used in the retail shelf. So it's really, if they want to address the issue of plastic, they will not solve the issue of plastic by targeting unfairly or discriminatorily the fruit and vegetables. It's also very strange because at the end, packaging is a cost. And I think your grower will not challenge me on this. So if you decide to have a cost to preserve your product, to maintain the quality of your product, it's because there is a return on the investment. So I think it's very strange that we have this burden on the fruit and vegetable sector when we are also probably one of the more environmental friendly product. You probably know this double pyramid of food, which show that we are the sector with the lowest environmental impact, and also the one with the broader base of healthy benefits for the consumer. And that's also another element which is not linked directly to the environmental side of the packaging, but packaging has also a function for marketing, for promoting the product. And why should we not be able to also, on an equal level of facility, being able to promote our product? Because we see also that our competing product, being yogurt or biscuits, they will still be able to have their own packaging, including some might be with some plastic. Often in the case of biscuits, you have 2 or 3 different packaging for the packing. So I think there is a matter of complexity in the matter, and also we could say, why could organic cucumber still be allowed to have this plastic film to avoid the commingling with other products? So it's very strange that therefore an organic product might be eligible to still use a plastic film, while the classical cucumber or conventional cucumber will not be able. So there is a lot of incoherence in the text that we still try to address. I think what is very important first is to continue following the path of this legislation, because for the moment we just have the political text, but for being fully implemented by 2030, there will still be about, I think, 20 different implementation legislation which will have to be adopted. And we still have to work, maybe, I don't know, there are some legal challenge on the current text, so we have to observe what will be happening. That's one element. The second element is that at the European level, they have started to realize that maybe let's say, the top-down approach that they took for the Green Deal, which was imposing from the top measure, and they essentially look at the environmental pillar of the sustainability, and now they realize that they are a social and an economic pillar. So there is some views that maybe the content of the political legislation might need to be reviewed for simplification and for competitiveness perspective. So I think we still need to observe that. But on the other hand, we know that we have the text, that we have to work on the different elements of that text. And obviously we have for the moment to work on the list of exemption that we would like to get for that. I think for your product, probably Apple will not have any possibility to be part of the exemption, which could still use packaging. Pears maybe, because they are more subject to physical shock, maybe, when they are ripened. Maybe stone fruit or all these products, plums, peaches, nectarine, maybe might be able to keep it. So we have a lot of work to do. We will try to get the argument. We have to justify why we need this derogation, and there are a number of criteria such as oxidation, such as organic, as I have mentioned, microbiological risk, physical shock. So we'll have to demonstrate that, maybe with the support of EFSA. I don't understand why EFSA has to intervene to that, but that's the political will. So I think the first recommendation is keep path of what is happening in the implementation. I think from our sector, we are calling for some visibility and legal approach because I think as any business, we need to have the time for investing. And when you invest in new packaging material or in new packing station for packing a product, you need to know what is the environment where we will have to do that. So that will be also important to look. And then maybe the final word, continue to talk and to be as close as possible as with your client in Europe, so that you can be sure that you adapt to the customer requirement, and that's quite important. And I think we are with fruit and vegetable with a fantastic product. So I think we have to be prepared to move forward. Probably plastic in the long run will have to be removed, but we have to look for alternatives. We have to consider research and innovation. This is a partnership things that has to be made. We maybe need to adapt the variety. And that was also one element that was a little bit shocking me when I was talking to retailers. They say, if we cannot have all the packaging, maybe I will have to reduce the assortment and limit the number of variety. So I think there are a lot of implications, and I think it's very good that we are continuing the dialogue. I will probably not be able to follow your workshop, but I will be very eager to listen to your conclusion, because I think it's very important to hear the element of what is happening on the ground. And this is the change that I was mentioning, where the Green Deal was made from a top-down approach. Now they consider more a bottom-up, and bottom-up means listening to what is happening on the ground. And I will be very happy to hear for your conclusions.
For now, I'd like to bring you back into the room with the panelists here with me. My first question is for Con. Con, we heard Mr. Binard talk about plastics as well, and the sense that it is being targeted in supermarkets. But for us as a fruit industry, plastics has worked so well. What do you think is the most important thing about plastic? And it makes sense to us, but why do we still use plastics?
I need to answer that question. I think we need to go back a little bit in history. In the late 1960s, after research was done specifically on golden delicious apples, we found that by using plastic liners, we could actually reduce bitter. After that, in the 80s, with gala types being exported, we wanted to find something to prolong shelf life and also to assist with moisture loss. And once again, plastic liners were doing the job. Then pink ladies were developed and they came on the scene. And if you pick post-optimum pink ladies, they tend to become greasy after you store them for a certain amount of time. And we found out that with plastic liners, we could actually control greasiness as well. We're also exporting to a lot of special export markets, for example, Taiwan, China, USA, Thailand, that do have specific phytosanitary requirements in terms of invasive pests. We also found that we're using liners to protect the fruit against reinfestation of insects after phytosanitary clearing by Delegate. Also, with this, in terms of the cold treatment that we use on specific varieties, especially some of the newer varieties, we actually want to export it at higher temperatures, and we found out that by using plastic liners, we can actually prevent chilling injuries. There's also technology in certain plastic liners that reduce ethylene buildup in the cartons. So in the end, the plastic liners became good practice to ensure good quality fruit arrives overseas. Maybe just to end, the markets that industry are exporting to are vastly different in terms of temperature, humidity, and cold chain infrastructure. In the EU, with a relative mild temperature and humidity, and excellent cold chain infrastructure and relative short voyage times, industry will probably be able to use less plastics. But when exporting, for example, to the Middle East or the Far East with high temperature and high humidity and not so favorable cold chain practices, the use of plastic liners is probably not negotiable to ensure the quality of fruit.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Mariana, you've heard about the EU requirements being quite strict, and the requirements on our side still needs a lot of work to be done. From a Hortgro side, what research is Hortgro undertaking currently to reduce our reliance on plastics?
Nitasha, it starts in the orchard. We need to increase the humidity around the fruit to reduce moisture loss, because that is probably, of all the fruit kinds we are working with, our biggest problem is to reduce moisture loss. So we're looking at increasing the relative humidity already when we harvest the fruit with wet blankets on top of the bins and drenching the fruit with water to cool them down and increase the humidity around the fruit. Then moving into the packhouse, where we a lot of our palm fruit are packed in a flume where there's water, increasing the relative humidity. And then we also use misters in the cold rooms to keep the humidity high. And then we are testing all kinds of packaging, reducing the thickness of our bags that we are using. We also compared bags to shareable sheets, we call it, or wrappers around the fruit, compared to using paper wrappers, edible coatings as well. But still, the plastic bags are giving us the best results. Retaining the fruit quality, retaining the moisture in the fruit so that we can export over long distances. So at this point in time, we're also looking at, for our plums, for example, we need the bags to reduce moisture loss, but we have to export in the containers with the vents open to reduce the CO2 levels in the containers, because that causes fermentation in our plums. So we are testing our different plum cultivars to see which one of those cultivars can actually handle higher CO2 concentrations, so that we can export with closed vents and maybe use the new plastics that are still recyclable. We are also testing a number of edible coatings on our fruit. It's doing really well with our pome fruit and our nectarines, but our plums do not like it. It's more the application method that is causing skin injuries. We are also looking at compostable packaging, both home compostable as well as industrial compostable packaging. It's looking good, very good on our product at the moment. But still, we see that the plastic bags actually do better regarding quality, the retention of quality. Although the compostable products is really looking good. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. My next question is for you as well, Con. Throughout your career, you have developed this very deep understanding of all the complexities and the challenges involving packaging and logistics in the pome industry. You're part of the Packhouse Action Group, and there's some work that the Packhouse Action Group has done in terms of a plastics component list. Tell us a little about that, and also tell us about the other sustainability initiatives taken at a Packhouse level to reduce, reuse, and to recycle our packaging waste.
Okay, Nitasha, Tesco started with a UK packaging preferred material list in 2018, 2019, before COVID, where red is components not to be used as the customers cannot easily recycle it. On the amber list, you had to get an agreement from them that you can actually use that. And obviously, everything on the green list is preferred for recycling, either on curbside or in store. Out of that, the Packhouse Action Group developed a matrix to reduce, reuse, recycle, or replace plastics. And out of that actually led to certain initiatives taken by industry. For example, garden lizard bags were normally packed in a 60 micron bag and all other varieties in a 37 micron bag. Over time, in some trials, we moved that down to 25 micron plastic liners. That's a reduction of 32% actually in plastic content, and it also came at a lower price. And also it improved the sustainability performance for us. In certain instances, we remove liner bags for specific varieties after we've done some tests. It can actually work as long as the voyage time is not too long. Industry also export to certain programs where they don't use it. material. There's also instances for certain markets where you use reusable, collapsible, or foldable plastic crates that can also be reused on the other side again. And all plastic bags for cartons and smaller bags for perm are made from low-density polyethylene that is fully recyclable. That is fully chemically recyclable, and LDPE is already widely used and is also collected in plastic recycling streams. To give you an example of a product of chemically recyclable product is, for example, black irrigation pipes that are being made, and when new orchards are developed, they're actually used there. Certain plastic suppliers are also starting to make use of water-based printing to reduce air pollution.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay.
Is there more?
Maybe one or two.
Okay, no.
There are also certain markets also require that we use pulp trays now instead of polystyrene trays. Actually, most EU markets, because it gives you a better end of life recyclability and perception. And then just the last thing, industry also moved from blue strap to white strap on the export pallets to also increase recyclability overseas.
Fantastic. That is really, really so inspiring. Thank you so much. So you understand that you've probably been 28 years, you've got a lot of experience in this. Some of the challenges creates a lot of opportunities for further work in research, economic development, etc. But what are some of the packaging challenges in foam and stone industry? And what do you think is still some of the work that needs to be done in this space?
Nitasha, I think there's a growing global demand for eco-friendly packaging, and it's putting pressure on the industry to phase out plastics and non-recyclable materials. But we must still remember fruit must reach the export markets in a good quality. That's not negotiable. And plastic liners at the moment is still the most cost-effective and feasible solution for this. And also different export markets do have different requirements. For example, the EU want pulp trays, but in the Far East they prefer polystyrene trays. So that also leaves you with where actually you do need to go to. And then we do need research. We still need a lot of research for various alternatives. And unfortunately, with fruit, you cannot just do that over a 1 year period. It's normally a 3 to 5 year period to make sure that it's actually the best option for the fruit in the end of the day. One thing one can probably look at is maybe at compostable fruit labels. It might be an option. At the moment, most of the fruit labels being used in the industry are not compostable. It still comes at an extra price. It's normally between 60 and 70% more expensive, but it's actually coming from a low base. So I think that's something that the industry can look into to improve the brand image of South African fruit being exported.
Yeah. Thank you. Wonderful. Mariana, you've heard some of the challenges and you heard some of the opportunities, gaps, and needs. Tell us a little bit about how you foresee some of those challenges inheriting itself into research and collaborative research with the industry.
Yeah, we are, like I said earlier, we are looking at compostable products that we can use, and it's at this point in time, it's really looking good, but there's a huge cost to that compared to using the normal recyclable plastics. Also, when you're using compostable material, it has a lifespan. So you have to buy it and you have to use it. You can't store it. You have to keep it in a low humidity environment, out of UV light. So you must remember that when you buy packaging like material like that and use it, you have to buy and use it. Also, for our edible coatings, I'm not so sure about our consumers, if they would like to have an additive on their product. And also, on some produce, it looks really good, but on others, it causes fermentation. Allow food losses. Nice products coming onto the market and are suggested to our research community that we are testing, and we are very excited about those.
Fantastic. That's really great. I'm sorry, I don't know if we've lost audio there for a while, but I hope we're back online. Dr. Jooste was just talking about some edible coatings and the preferences and the gaps and the needs for further research, if you missed anything there. And I just would like to go back to Con and just find out, are there any kind of ideas, a summary on what the foam and stone industry can do to comply with the sustainability and the export market targets out there? Are there any tips that you can?
Well, I don't know about tips, but I think there's certain focus areas that we probably need to look at. And the first one is probably around packaging design. We like we said, we need to shift to recyclable, lightweight, and compostable materials. I think the second one is around material compliance, where we need to avoid banned materials, for example, expanded polystyrene and non-recyclable plastics, if that is still being used. But we also need to document it. We need to provide recyclability and recycled content evidence if the supermarkets overseas actually do require that. And we also need retail alignment in terms of we need to meet retail-specific packaging sustainability goals, but it must still be without compromising the quality of our food, because I think that's one of the biggest issues at the moment. We want to comply as an industry, and there's a lot of things that's going on at the moment, but at the end of the day, the quality of the fruit cannot be compromised, because that is actually what's playing in the end of the day, the whole value chain, because the farmer needs to be sustainable. And if he's sustainable, then everything down in the supply chain will also be sustainable. And that's making it difficult now at this point in time. And then also maybe lastly, we need some collaboration between the exporters, the retailers, the packaging suppliers, research facilities like Hortgro, and so that there's mutual goals and that we all work towards the same thing. And maybe just to end, if the South African palm fruit industry acts proactively, it can gain a competitive advantage in the high-value export markets. But then we must grow our sustainability demands. We must reduce plastic-related risk exposure, and through that, we will enhance our brand image as a responsible future-fit supplier.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Mariana, any last bits from you in terms of ideas and summary of how to go forward in terms of supporting the challenges and the initiatives and meeting the targets?
Yeah, I think I would like to have the specifications from the EU, like Con also said, and collaboration between the EU and the retail market there, our exporters and our research community, that we talk to each other and know, and that we can focus our research properly. I think also regarding our market, we want to work with plastics responsibly. We don't want to waste it. We don't want to overpack our fruit or do anything like that. We really want to be responsible regarding that. I'm also a consumer, and I also want my children to have a sustainable product in future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So one of the ideas is that we will be linking with very valuable collaborators outside of just research and industry. There are organizations that are also working on recyclability, redesign. One of the organizations is Green Cape. Dr. Kirsten Barnes was not able to join us today, but Mr. Rowan Snyman is hopefully online as well, joining us live at the webinar. Green Cape is the implementing agent for the South African Plastics Pact, which is working to eliminate some problematic plastics, as well as to enhance and increase recyclable content in the supply chain and in the market. So if you need further information on the Plastics Pact initiatives, on suppliers that are already working with recyclable content and remodification of their products, etc., you are so welcome to contact Mr. Rowan Snyman. He will also be able to tell you more on how to become a Plastics Pact member, a South African Plastics Pact member. So you're welcome to link with him. I see we do have one comment and one question on the chat. You're welcome to put in your questions and comments as we go along. That's also fine. We do have some time. The first question is, good morning. I am representing the SA honeybush industry. Honeybush is mostly used as a herbal infusion, similar to rooibos. Question, do tea bags qualify as single-use plastics? Lisa, I do not have an answer for you at this moment. but we definitely will get back to you on that. It's not our core industry at the moment, but I definitely will get back to you privately. I think we will get your details from Lindy and reply to you on that. Would it be possible, Mari is asking, would it be possible to receive the Freshfel presentation in a text or document format for ease of reference? Absolutely. We will try to get as much of the content in text for you or for our users or our audience. A lot of the content will be on our website in any case, so you'll be able to access it at hortgro.co.za. Lionel, good morning. Is the PPWR in the EU also applicable to intelligent packaging used to keep fruit fresh?
That's probably
Mad
bad
bags,
bags, yes.
Modified atmosphere.
Okay.
Yes.
Would you like to talk a little bit more and give some information to Lionel, who's wanting to know about this?
I think if the mat bags are laminated with other plastics, different plastics, or if it's co-construed with other plastics, it makes it very difficult to recycle. So only I know that some of the MAP products are recyclable, and so we can use it. And we are testing it at the moment on some of our fruit kinds, for example, cherries. Yes, so if it's recyclable, we can use it.
So thanks for that question, Lionel. What is really important is that the EU will firstly develop these specifications for its member states for compliance purposes. And once those have been trialed and tested and there is unanimous acceptance of those specifications will be sent through to the external liaisons or external parties such as us. And then we would then begin our work in terms of complying with those specifications for recyclability, recycled content, etc. So thank you for that question. That's really informative. Let's see another question. I just don't want to miss any. Okay, Martinetu is wanting to know, is there any information regarding PFAS in packaging in RSA? There's a growing concern in the USA.
So PFAS is basically a lubricant that is used in the extrusion process. It's called a processing aid. And so legislation has been passed in terms of removing PFAS from processing of extruded films, etc. And so you will find that there are PFAS processing aids still on the market being sold, and then there are other companies who have ceased using PFAS as processing aids, and that's used in the extrusion process.
Yeah, thank you so much for that correction. Thank you. I think with the requirements in terms of the specifications, once we receive these specifications from the EU, we'll be able to use that to then work towards complying with our plastics as well. Yeah. So we rely heavily on the specifications that will be coming from the EU. Dieter is asking, map liners come in different number.
I think you just answered it on that previous question.
Okay, thank you so much. I don't think there are further comments. I would like to take this opportunity to thank my panelists in persons, Dr. Mariana Jooste and Con Louw, and Mr. Philippe Binard for his availability and his insights into the EU specifications and EU requirements and where we stand with that. I thoroughly have enjoyed engaging with you and learning new information, so that's always very welcome. And a big thank you to our audience, panel members. Thank you to the Hortgro technical team. We're doing the best that we can. Remember to share this episode. Once it's uploaded, remember to share it with your agricultural enthusiasts, with your colleagues, etc., and help us to jointly collaborate to find the solutions we need for sustainable packaging. Our next webinar will be in August, and we will be looking at carbon footprinting and our Confronting Climate Change project and how to become a carbon hero in South Africa's fruit industry. So keep your ears close to the ground for that. We will announce it. And then that's it from me, Nitasha, and the rest of the Hortgro team and our panel members. You're welcome to engage with us via email. If you need contact details, you can just email Lindy and she will share all the information that she can with you. So thank you so much for joining us, and let's continue to leave a sustainable legacy together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.